Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you all. So, we're coming back to Tearlaments, which of all of the meta decks that I have been showcasing so far here in Season 21 post-ban list, this is definitely the one that has changed the most as far as what the main deck looks like. Now, before I get into it, I wanted to give a huge shout out to Jesse Cotton. A lot of the ideas that I've gotten for Tearlaments, I have pretty much just kind of taken straight from his kind of video about it. The way I see it, you know, he's obviously going to be a much better Tearlaments player than I am, so I'll kind of start with working off of the deck style he's presenting, and then from there, we'll see how I feel about the deck and kind of move forward from it. I mean, I'm not one for one just lifting the exact same build, but a lot of the techs here are definitely ones that he was suggesting. And after playing with Tearlaments, like, some of the stuff on the surface, it might seem weird, like, to just be playing all of this just because we lost to Merly, but having actually play tested with the deck and played it on ladder and ranked up with it in Diamond, I can tell you that these changes are definitely for the best. And again, it's pretty wildly different from what Tier was doing before, but it's all needed. So, we did lose to Merly, and that's really, really huge for a lot of reasons. It not only means we have to find a new kind of combo line to do, because our Mill 8 Feel Great play with Kitkallos searching Merly is no longer a thing, we also have one less Fuser, so we're only going to get 2 Fusion Summons per turn, not up to 3, like we had in the past. It also makes milling a lot worse in our deck just because we have fewer cards we actually want to mill. So we do have a couple of cards that we are playing to kind of help supplement that. Having stuff we want to proactively mill. That's going to be the Performage Trick Clown as well as Night Sword Serpent. These both basically are level 4 monsters that just summon themselves when they are sent from the deck to the graveyard. Namely from the, well, as I said, deck to the graveyard. They don't have to directly be sent from the deck to the graveyard, but they proc when sent from the deck to the graveyard. So summoning them is nice because they give you extra level 4 bodies, and I think moving forward, Tearlaments definitely leans a bit more into the rank 4 engine. As you can see, Zoodiacs are back on the menu here, and we are definitely going to be summoning those alongside other rank 4s like Abyss Dweller, Bagooska, and Time Thief Redoer here. So they definitely help in that regard. The Night Sword Serpent is also... Oh, I'm sorry, it's not an aqua monster, it's just water. So, never mind, discard that. We're also playing Supreme Sea Mare. For a long time, I definitely was kind of admonishing people who were playing this. And to be fair, in the past, I don't think it was right to play Supreme Sea Mare, but I do think it is right moving forward, because we need that extra consistency, right? We just need to be able to make our plays that much more often. It might seem weird that we're playing these Supreme Sea Mares to help supplement the loss of, like, Merly, but again, with the loss of Merly, you know, that means we're opening her less often, and that doesn't just mean, you know, normal summoning her and milling 3, it also means discarding her off of Scheiren. It means sending her off of something like a Sulliek or a Heartbeat, right? We're just having less opportunities to activate fusers, so we need more opportunities to activate fusers, and that's where the Supreme Sea Mare comes in. The Sea Mare is also an aqua monster, which can definitely help, obviously, fuses with the Kitkallos as well as into the Kaliedo-Heart there as well. So, yeah, definitely nice to have not only more fusion materials, but also more ways to start our plays. Speaking of more ways to start our plays, we're also playing a couple of copies of Tearlaments Grief here. The 2 Tearlaments Grief are cards that are going to help us, again, just make our plays more consistent, get our fusers into the graveyard more often, because we are having a bit of a time doing that with 2 less Merly, just milling cards off the top of our deck. It's funny, and I think I might have even said this in a video before, but it's kind of wild to me, breeding Tearlaments Grief and actually playing with it, that this is like a quote-unquote bad Tearlaments support card. It's definitely not a bad card at all, but, like, do you know how many archetypes would kill for this exact card with their name instead of Tearlaments? And how many archetypes would be, like, 5 times better if they had this exact card? But Tearlaments, Tearlaments are so OP that they just get to be like, ugh, now that we've had a third of our main engine banned, I guess we'll play the Foolish Burial at worst, Summon from deck at best effect. Like, golly, it's so ridiculous, but it's so cool too at the same time. So, The Tearlaments Scream has been playing extremely well. Again, just I love that extra consistency. We're also playing both Foolishes and Rhoda as well to help with that. I am playing what bits of the Ishizu engine we do have left. I will say that the Shufflers are still exceptionally powerful disruption, and I think that milling is mostly worth it, not only of course to hit Fuser names, but also to hit these and get them into the graveyard as well. Again, it's all just going to be much less consistent, but I made the prediction with my tier list at the beginning of the month that the tier limit deck was going to rank in tier 2, and now that I have played with the deck, I feel pretty confident in that assertion. I think there is a chance that, again, maybe people won't explore it enough and it'll end up in tier 3, but I've been seeing a fair amount of tier limit stuff in general on the ladder. So I think that, yeah, I think that we're ultimately going to see it fall to tier 2, but definitely still be a relevant force here in the metagame. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about the list. Let's break it down card by card and then look at some gameplay. So we're on 3 Maxx, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 Tearlaments Havnis, 1 Performage Trick Clown, 1 Fairy Tale Snow, 1 Night Sword Serpent, 3 Supreme Sea Mare, 2 Tearlaments Scheiren, 3 Tearlaments Reinoheart, 1 Keldo the Sacred Protector, 1 Mudora the Sword Oracle, 1 Kelbek the Ancient Vanguard. We have 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 1 Foolish Burial Goods, 2 Triple Tactics Talent, 2 Tearlaments Grief, 1 Primeval Planet Perlerino, 3 Tearlaments Scream, 3 Super Poly, 1 Tearlaments Heartbeat, 1 Tearlaments Metanoise, 1 Tearlaments Cryme, and then 1 Tearlaments Sulliek. That is our main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 Mudragon of the Swamp, 1 Tearlaments Kitkallos, 1 Garura, Wings of Restorant Life, 1 Predaplant Dragostapelia, 1 Tearlaments Rulkallos, 1 Tearlaments Kaliedo-Heart, 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Zoodiac Drident, 1 Zoodiac Boarbow, 1 Zoodiac Chakinine, 1 number 41 Bagooska, the terribly tired Tapir, 1 Time Thief Redoer, 1 Divine Arsenal, Zeus, Sky Thunder, 1 Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy, and then 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. There's our list. Let's see some gameplay. Alright, game number 1 here is going to be against Labyrinth. I was actually pretty concerned about this matchup because this matchup could already be a little bit rougher Tearlaments pre-ban list, and now there's stuff like Ice Dragon's Prison, Dimensional Barrier, Compulsory are going to be that much more devastating here. So we're going to be taking the second turn. I'm going to Maxx C during the draw phase here. Opponent's going to Extrav. Now, in the past, I have actually Extraved for a draw to like quite a bit, but lately, especially with the rise of the Labyrinth deck, I've not been using the Ash Blossom there. And as you can see there, my opponent even fired off Maxx C, and I still didn't use Ash Blossom because I knew, I was so confident I was playing against Labyrinth. And honestly, Ash Blossom is so good against the Welcome Lab trap cards, I don't even use it against Maxx C. In a situation like this. Although, to be fair, with a hand like this, I wasn't going to OTK this turn anyway, so I don't feel the need to as strongly have an out to the Maxx C there. Going to activate this Reinoheart that I rotated for. Opponent's got a Magnum Hunt to stop the Havnis anyway, so I'm not really sure. I mean, I guess it wasn't incorrect to throw out the Maxx C there, even if you were going to Magnum Hunt, but it still feels a little bit odd. I didn't really have much choice else just to set Super Poly here and pass. Opponent is going to search for a Bestial Baldrake. Looks like they're moving straight to the battle phase. It doesn't seem like they have that much action going on in their hand here. They are going to use the Stovey during the main phase 2, sending an Imperm along with it to set up the big Welcome Lab. Holding the Baldrake, of course, makes sense for my tier limit play on the follow-up turn. Going to start by normal summoning the Supreme Sea Mare. Opponent's got a big Welcome Lab. Finally going to throw out my Ash Blossom here now that I have a Welcome Lab trap card to negate. Again, I see Extravagance in this meta. I'm just going to assume it's Labyrinth, and I'm going to be sitting my Ash Blossoms for their power plays here. Sending a Scheiren off with the Sea Mare. Opponent is going to, of course, use the Bestial Baldrake. That was definitely expected. I want to fire off the Maxx C here because I don't know how many other options I'm going to get to use it. Opponent's going to use their Ash Blossom on it. I'm 100% okay with that because it's only going to be stopping one draw here. This is an instance where if I was the opponent, I think I would have just let that Maxx C resolve, but it's kind of debatable. I do get to use my Super Poly here as I go to move to the battle phase, so I will not be, or no, they're not moving to the battle phase, it's my turn, what am I talking about? Before I move to the battle phase, I'm going to use the Garura alongside the Supreme Sea Mare to make the Dark Charmer Gloomy. I get a draw off the Garura, which is relevant, the Foolish by All Goods, and I totally forgot I wasn't playing Bystials anymore. Otherwise I would have brought back the Baldric, I think was actually correct, instead of the Magnum Hut, but oh well, not that big of a deal. Goods is going to send Cryme. No need to send Sulliek here because we had both Havnis and Scheiren and Banish, and I was going to add the Havnis anyway, so. To be fair, there's a debate to actually reviving the Magnum Hut off the Dark anyway, even if we didn't have a card to search, because we could have potentially baited our opponent into using an Imperm on the Magnum Hut, although if they had Imperm, they would have just used it on Dark anyway, so I don't really think that's much of an argument. Definitely going to be using the Keldo here, and as you can see, the Keldo is actually enough to get my opponent to concede, because we threatened to stop their Stovey from coming back. This Wind Pegasus that Ignister they just sent is going back, and I definitely would have put back the big Welcome Lab that was in their graveyard as well to stop the graveyard-based effect. And as you can see, I think weren't they already at, yeah, they're already at 3650, so I could have just normal summoned the Havnis and attacked for game, but we also had that Tearlaments Grief, so that would have also been enough, definitely, to find a lot of plays to finish them off from there. So, cool, there is our first duel against Lab. Nice 6-turn back and forth there. Let's go and take a look at our next game. Alright, this next duel is going to be against Pure Kashtira. Kashtira, the Tearlaments' arch nemesis. Tearlaments? I mean, they have the S at the end of their name, so I'm guessing that's part of their name? I don't know. Who knows? In any case, we can take the first turn, and this is a very, very good hand. We have access to the Perlerino, the Reinoheart, and the Grief here. But, oh, the opponent's got a D-shifter in response. That's so brutal. The follow-up Maxx is definitely not needed either. I don't really know why they bothered throwing that out. I mean, I know why they threw it out. They changed it to the D-shifter so that way they could activate it. But I mean, if I'm going to banish the card off Reinoheart, like I'm not going to give you a draw here. I just think they should have saved it for my follow-up turn, is I guess what I'm saying here. But looks like they're going to use the Ogre to search the trap card. I'm not going to Ash Blossom that. There's no need to, but I will definitely hit the Sacred Sword here. This does, you know, they might still have the Unicorn or Fenrir, but it's definitely not as likely as if they'd gotten the 2 draws there. So they're going to Prosperity for 3, revealing the Ascend of Thunder and 2 Ash Blossoms. They thankfully don't take either of the Ash Blossoms. I guess the Ascend of Thunder really is all they had here. We do know that one of their cards is Kashtira Preparations, so there is that. The other card is going to be some other form of back row. Going into my turn, no longer under the Dimensional Shifter here. I'm going to chain the Maxx to the Preparation so I can get a draw off of this, and it's not like I was going to activate a trap card this turn anyway, so the prep is not really that big of a deal. Ogre, also not that big of a deal at all. Going to summon this Scheiren all the same. Scheiren is going to end up milling a Reinoheart, which I get to summon here. Ogre, let's see what they end up hitting. Again, even if they find a fuser name, that's fine. Yeah, none of these 5 cards are losing them is not relevant to my ultimate game plan here. Gonna grab the Reinoheart and summon it. Opponent's got an Imperm for the Reinoheart effect, but that is not going to be enough to stop our plays because we still have a little rank 4 that I like to call Time Thief Redoer. We also have a Tearlaments Scream. Oh my god, I forgot we hadn't activated this yet, so I get to just send a Havnis directly from the deck to the graveyard, and I ultimately end up just doing that. But even if we didn't have Tearlaments Scream in hand, we still could have just overlaid for the Redoer there. Alright, gonna activate both Kitkallos and Perlerino. Perlerino is gonna pop the Kashtira Ogre, and the Kitkallos will grab, or mill the Scheiren rather. Gonna fuse the Scheiren and the Kitkallos together, not to make Rulkallos here, but actually Dragostapelia. The way I see it, if they do end up top decking like a Fenrir or a Unicorn, I can just use the Dragostapelia against it, and then that not only stops it from using any of its effects, including the Search or Banish, but also changes it to level 1, so that way they can't make any rank 7s with it. But it's going to ultimately top deck not too much of anything here, it seems like. Just going to move to battle phase yet again, smacking with Dragostapelia and Reinoheart. We also have a Metanoise, which will be very relevant in this matchup, turning stuff face down. Very much matters when you're playing against Kashtira. And turning stuff face down is what the Cashier player is going to be doing here too, as they activate Swords of Concealing Light. That will stop me from getting lethal, as I'm not able to flip up either of these monsters while the swords are up. I do top deck a Havnis, but it'll be 200 points short of actually finishing my opponent off here. However, it does make my face down Metanoise live, so that is very good. Opponent's going to immediately use the preparations to summon the Ogre. I'm going to use the Metanoise to turn it face down. Metanoise also lets me send the Scheiren directly from my deck to the graveyard, as well as turning the Ogre down. So I get to fuse now with the Kitkallos, doing all this during my opponent's standby phase, so that way they don't get a triple attack activation if they do have it in hand. And the opponent just concedes because they have a monster on the field and it's face down, so even if they have like Reinoheart in their hand, they can't special it. They can't summon any other Cashier monsters, and again, because we're doing that during the standby phase, if the card in hand is triple attack, that is also going to be dead. So, cool, good stuff. There is that duel. We still have a couple more to see, so let's go straight into the next one here. Alright, got another Kashtira deck that we are playing against. This one's a little bit more aggressive in its banishing, as it's playing stuff like Defissure and Macro, which I find is quickly becoming not the norm for Kashtira to play, which I tend to agree with. I don't think those cards are that good in that deck. This hand, wow, completely abysmal. I'm just going to set the Scream and Sulliek here. I don't want to activate the Scream. There's a debate that it was right to do that because of Maxx. I could have drawn into Havnis, and then having the face-up Scream would have been fine, but it also would have been a dead giveaway as to what I was playing. Also, there is definitely something to be said about information here, and I can definitely use information against my opponent in a situation like this, because I'm going to keep getting past priority to activate the Sulliek. I'm kind of leading my opponent into thinking that I might have a response, which I wouldn't necessarily count on this to like carry me through the whole duel to a win, but I will say that it can matter a lot more than I think a lot of people factor in to their plays there. So, and again, I feel like if I had activated Scream, then me constantly getting past priority, my opponent would have just been like, oh, it's just Sulliek, because of course that's what it would be if Tearlament is constantly getting past priority. But again, they don't know I'm on Tearlaments because I didn't activate my Scream face up. So it doesn't seem like they had too many plays anyway. They're just going to make a Shangri-Ira, set one, and then pass. Top deck a Fairy Tale Snow. They're going to use the Ira to get the Fenrir. Now here I could actually use the Snow in a way where I'm going to get to draw a couple of cards off of the triple attack. So I'm going to normal summon Snow and activate the effect. And you would think, right, like, oh, use Snow to turn Fenrir face down. Then it can't use the effect to banish your cards. But no, I'm turning the Shangri-Ira face down, which will in turn proc the Fenrir, which ensures that my triple attack will be procced, that I get to draw two cards here. If I had put the Fenrir face down, then sure, yeah, they couldn't have banished my stuff, but I would have had literally 0 plays, right? Because I can't do anything with the field, and I can't battle over the Fenrir or the Shangri-Ira. But here I get to be like, oh, turn the Shangri-Ira face down. Oh no, I misplayed. Now the Fenrir activates. Except again, JK, this was totally intentional. I want to draw two cards, except my opponent has Ash Blossom! Ah! I'm kicking myself, because this would have been a brilliant play if my opponent did not have the Ash Blossom. Here I'm just going to activate Scream, and then set the other one and pass. I figure at this point it probably doesn't matter. My opponent's probably just going to end up finding lethal anyway. Also, another thing about turning the Shangri-Ira face down, in order to have it face up, they have to put it in attack mode, which could maybe matter, potentially, but nah, they're just going to swing in for lethal with the Fenrir and the Reinoheart, so it's not ultimately going to matter. This was just a situation where, yeah, we just didn't have too much recovery. This was very close to a game I wouldn't have shown, like a going second/losing game, but I just wanted to show that interaction with the Triple Tactics talent, because there are some situations where you can kind of play in a way where you can intentionally set it up, and if you manage to do that, then that's good. I don't know. I don't really know if I had much of a point beyond that, but we do have one more duel to see, so let's go straight into it. And our last duel for this video is against Sword Soul. Good old Sword Soul. Ever the stalwart force in the meta. I don't know if it's tier 2 or tier 1 yet. I still haven't made that decision just yet. It seems like it could go either way. It really could, and I wouldn't be surprised. So I'm going to use my Rhoda even though I already have a Reinoheart in hand. I like to do this because it lets me not only give my opponent an opportunity to play an Ash Blossom at a point where I would like them to, but it lets me kind of see if they have disruption, period, right? Because if you play a card like Rhoda and your opponent gets past priority, then you know they have, like, you know, it could be the Ash Blossom, it could be Maxx. In some niche cases, it could be Dimension Shifter, but either way, you know your opponent's going to have something. Like, you won't be going into it blind, necessarily. So, here my opponent not only does have the Ash Blossom, but also the Imperm, but thankfully they did use a monster effect, because now I get to use the triple attack. I talked about in my Sprite deck profile how much I love playing this card in this current metagame, and playing it here in Tearlaments as well has just reaffirmed that for me. Now I definitely wish I could have gone back and remade my top 5 text video for the new format, because the triple attack absolutely would have made the cut. This card has been overperforming for me. I love it quite a bit. We look at our opponent's hand, and they're holding Ecclesia, Vishuda, and the Sword of Soul Sacred Summit. This is a pretty easy selection. I'm going to put back Ecclesia here. The Sacred Summit does nothing without, you know, the Ecclesia, and the Vishuda is not enough by itself to make plays for my opponent. I'm also going to be throwing out the draw phase Maxx here. Even though I know what's in their hand, I just want to make sure that I'm getting all the draws I can, and or stopping them from making plays. Here, I stop them from making plays, which is fine because I have both the Supreme Sea Mare and the Reinoheart. Here, I'm going to normal summon specifically the Supreme Sea Mare, and there is a reason for this. If this face down card happens to be Imperm and I normal summon Reinoheart, then I don't really have that many options for follow-up plays. But if I normal summon Supreme Sea Mare and it ends up being Imperm, what I can do is I can overlay for Redoer and then detach the Reinoheart that I have under the Redoer. That'll activate its effect, sending the other Reinoheart in my hand and summoning it back, and then I get to make plays anyway. And that's actually going to be exactly what happens here. So again, Imperm is going to resolve against the Supreme Sea Mare and negate it, but I'll overlay for the... It'll also negate the Scream here as well, which is fine, but I get to overlay for the Redoer, and like I said, detach Reinoheart, send Reinoheart, and again, if I had normal summon the second Reinoheart, I would have been able to do this, because Reinoheart needs to have a Tearlaments monster in the hand to activate, and I would have had a Supreme Sea Mare in the hand instead. Alright, Tearlaments is going to send the... Reinoheart is going to send the Havnis. Going to fuse Havnis with the Supreme Sea Mare for the Kitkallos, using Kitkallos' effect to send the Scheiren, activating Scheiren's effect to fuse it with the Kitkallos. Here I'm going to make Rulkallos. I think that that's ultimately going to be a little bit better against the Sword Soul as opposed to something... I guess to be fair, you could do either Rulkallos or Dragostapelia. There's actually a consideration for either, but I think the Rulkallos is a little more versatile. And also offers potentially some more advantage by sending a Tearlaments card. We do get back our Redoer either way, and Redoer is going to snag a Moye, if I recall. Yes, a Moye, so... Opponent's going to special the Vishuda. This will proc the Scream. Scream actually ended up hitting both Scheiren and Kelbek, and a Trick Clown here. I actually did do this in the wrong order. I should have put Trick Clown at the end to chain block, but either way, I could not have asked for a better Scream mill. Holy cow. The Kelbek mill is, I mean, it puts a Keldo in the yard, which is actually very relevant, so that's also definitely fine as well. Gonna summon the Kitkallos here, activating Kitkallos as well as Metanoise. Metanoise is going to ultimately end up grabbing the Reinoheart, and I'll use Kitkallos to add a Havnis here. Opponent did mill a couple of relevant cards off of the Kelbek as well. They hit Ashina, as well as Moye and the Longyan. That might be relevant for if they end up having a Protoss here. So I should have waited, honestly, to use the Keldo now that I'm thinking about it, but I just... Well, no, I couldn't have. That's right. I wanted to wait until the Vishuda went into the graveyard, but the problem is that they have that Sacred Summit in their hand. I guess I could have waited for them to activate it, but they actually top decked a Moye, which is pretty good for them, except for the fact that I Dragostapelia, so... that actually was pretty close to them being able to push through my board, so kudos to them, but my mills were just too great. They were just too good at the end of there, so... Alright, that's going to go ahead and do it for this game against Sword Soul, and in turn we'll also do it for this video. So everyone, thank you as always as ever for watching. It's greatly appreciated, and let's just go ahead and move to our outro. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a whole lot to me. Not just personally, but it's also a great way of supporting the channel as well. if you're interested in supporting the channel in other means, you can of course feel free to comment and or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm always looking to the comments section. You guys leave some pretty awesome feedback as far as like constructive criticism goes when it comes to deck building, gameplay, channel content, all that stuff. So feel free to leave your opinion down there. I will be sure to take a look at that there. And then subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications of when these videos drop. That does happen every day, by the way, so if you're looking for daily Master Duel content, you've come to the right place. And there are more places where you can get some daily Master Duel content. If you check out the description below, follow the top link over to my Patreon page. There for just $5 a month, which is as much as you pay for a booster pack, you'll find a lot more value than a pack full of filler over there. We've got some previews for content upcoming here on the channel. We've got some exclusive games that are only posted over on Patreon over there. We've got some Q&As, and then you can also have your name featured in this lovely credit sequence where I thank all of the people who are helping contribute over there on Patreon. It's a huge support to the channel, and it really means a lot as well. So thank you everyone who is donating that is featured here on screen. And again, you know, it's not just a pure donation, you do get some more daily Master Duel content over there just for being a part of the Patreon. But I think that's about all the time that I have for today's video. Once again, I just want to thank you so very much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Again, it just means a lot as I do put a decent amount of work into getting these videos out every single day. But that's about all the time that I've got for now. So without further ado, this is Maxx. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.